Alexandra, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad to have you here with me today.
Hi, Carrie. Thanks a lot for having me.
So I have so many questions for you. This is really new for me, but it's funny. I've had this obsession with women who do van life or become digital nomads and just travel the world by themselves, and seems so fearless to me. And you're exactly one of those women. So now I get to ask you all of the questions.
Sure.
So you're originally from St. Petersburg, Russia.
Yes.
And can you just kind of give us a little bit of your backstory, how long you stayed in Russia, where you went from there, and then maybe how you became a digital nomad and what that is?
Sure. I think like nowadays, a lot of people mention this term digital nomad, and I feel like maybe some of them don't really know what it means.
Yes.
But to cut my story short, after I finished my bachelor's in Russia, I was 20 and I won a scholarship to do my master's in Sweden. So I moved there. It was around 2016. And after that, I got a job in Greece. So I would rather start my story from there.
Sure.
Yeah, so basically I was working in Greece. I was managing a team of the content moderators. So it was trust and safety field. It was 2018, 2019, and I was in my early 20s. I was like around 22, 23 when I started. And what happened was like everything was perfect. I had an amazing life in Greece. I had my own apartment. My salary was pretty decent. I enjoyed my work. I've discovered hiking, outdoor sports. That was what I was doing after work. But I had this feeling after a few months that something was missing. And what happened was that after almost a year, I went for a vacation to Armenia to hike. And after I came back to work, it was September, so it was almost a year that I was in that company. I came back to work and I couldn't. I just couldn't do my work. I couldn't drag myself to the office. I was counting every single minute until the end of my shift. And after 3 weeks like that, I was sitting at work and I remember it like, as if it was yesterday. It was Sunday. I was sitting at work. It was open space. And I was helping to manage back then, at least on the weekends, 250 people on the floor. And I was sitting there counting every minute until the end. And I was like, no, I cannot. So what happened was I opened the map and I checked the flights to different countries around the world. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I cannot. So on Monday, I came to my manager. I was like, I want to resign. And everyone was very shocked because, like nobody could have predicted that. And my company sent me on the vacation from Thursday because I had a lot of days off left. So basically in the 3 days span from resigning, I ended up leaving the company completely. And I bought the tickets to Mexico just like that. And in 3 weeks from that time, I found myself in Mexico.
So you just chose Mexico by looking at a map, or were you interested in Mexico before that?
There was actually another story behind it. I was originally choosing between Latin America and Asia because my youngest sister was working there. So I thought like, I could go to visit her. But at the same time, I remember a few years ago watching Narcos.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I loved Spanish. It wasn't like, for me, it wasn't about drugs or about anything bad. It was just the way how Spanish sounded. And I realized like, I want to learn Spanish. So I checked the flights from Greece or from Russia to Colombia, but all of them were going through Mexico and the layover was like almost a day. So I was like, okay, let me just buy the tickets to Mexico, stay there, and then make my way to Colombia through all the other countries. And that's what I did.
Oh, that's funny. We have something in common. My husband and I watched all of Narcos together, and I love that series. But I also had a huge interest in learning Spanish when I was young. I remember having books on Spain when I was, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years old, and just kind of looking through and saying, oh, I'll learn that someday. And I actually went on to major in Spanish in college and business, and then studied in Spain and ended up teaching it for years. So that's funny. Yeah. So, South America came next, though. After Mexico, you went south and continued to, where are you right now?
Right now, I'm actually in Bolivia.
In Bolivia. Okay, so tell me about South America. How did that compare to Mexico? What was your experience like going through Mexico and then into other countries?
Sure. I mean, when I came to Mexico, I was backpacking, right? Like for 6 months, I was a solo traveler. I was going from place to place, and I discovered half of Mexico like that. And then COVID hit. And of course, it was very unexpected. I didn't know what to do. I was in another country. Back then, I could already pick up some Spanish because it was 6 months. But I knew for sure that I wouldn't want to go back to Russia. So what happened was that during the COVID time, I found a job. And when it was more or less safe to travel, I started traveling again. So when I reached Colombia, I was already working remotely. So it was already a different type of traveling, like a different style, right? Like back then, as a backpacker, I would be rather staying at the hostels. I was volunteering because I came without savings because I wasn't prepared to leave my job. It was just like one moment decision. So I had like less than $5,000 on me when I was traveling. And in Colombia, I was already working. So I could afford many other things that I couldn't before. And I would say South America for sure is a bit different, not only in terms of the way how Spanish sounds, because sometimes they use different words compared to Mexico, but also I think like the way people communicate and treat you is a bit different. Because compared to Mexico, I find people like, I don't want to say anything bad about the country because it's still in my heart, but people are maybe like more open. And I never had the feeling that people are trying to cheat me in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise I felt completely safe. Very, very happy to travel. A lot of places to discover for sure.
Yeah, so I'll actually go back to a different question since you mentioned safety. You're traveling alone and you have traveled alone. I guess this is going to be two questions. Where do you stay while you're traveling? You mentioned backpacking. So does that mean staying in hostels? I know people just do so many different things now in terms of lodging. Where did you stay? And tell me about that feeling of safety from the moment really that you landed in Mexico until South America. How have you kept yourself safe?
Sure. To be honest, when I came to Mexico, I didn't know anything about the country. I didn't want to read in advance, just to not arrive full of stereotypes about the place. And when I quit my job in Greece, unfortunately, I've heard so many negative comments from my colleagues back then, how I would be robbed, how I would be raped, something will be stolen. Nothing. I don't think it's correct to travel in the country like that based on some assumptions. So it was never a moment when I would be feeling unsafe as a solo traveler. And before COVID, what I did, because again, like I was traveling on a very low budget, I was using couch surfing. So it's something similar to Airbnb. And
my son did that for Europe. Yeah.
I think it's amazing. I am still in touch with most of the people I've met.
You know, that really is a great way to get to know a new country. My son was in the Peace Corps, so he was living in Kosovo for a while, and then COVID hit and he came back home and then ended up, I have to try to remember all of his travel. He's been traveling really since he graduated and before that, but he was in Germany for a while and he just went backpacking on his own immediately after graduation, or it might have even been the summer before he graduated college. And he did a lot of couch surfing and met some really great people that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's amazing. And it's a very great way to discover the culture and the place from the inside perspective.
Yes.
From the locals' eyes. So that was one of the ways. Plus, I was staying at the hostels. I was using one website called World Packers to find the volunteer opportunities. So I would sometimes arrive, let's say like in Mexico City, for me, it was an amazing way to discover the place. And I stayed there for almost 2 months, simply because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start from. It was my first time without work and I was just lost. So I found out about this website. I found a place where I could stay and help. So in exchange for bed and breakfast, I was just helping around for like 4 hours during the day and staying in the heart of Mexico.
Yeah, people don't realize that you can do that. My son actually went over to Albania. He loved the country of Albania, And he was doing that on, I think it was like a vacation that he had during his Peace Corps work. But he did the same thing. He stayed in a hostel and he just did work around the place, like fixing things and so forth, to be able to stay there. And that was a really nice experience too.
Yeah, I think so too, because also normally you would be staying in the place for like at least 1 or 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it also helps to meet other travelers,
Yes.
to discover the country or the city, and also exchange maybe some ideas with other backpackers of like what to do next and where to go.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great networking opportunity, and really to get to know like the local food and things like that, and practice your language as well. Yeah.
Certainly.
So do you think that, go ahead.
So talking, just to finish about safety, I think from what I've learned, for sure, like there are some common understandings of what to do and what not to do, regardless of whether you're alone or in the group. Like, for example, people share the stories how they get robbed on the street.
Yes.
But then when you go deep into the details, it's like, sometimes it's 3 a.m, they are walking alone, they're holding their phone in their hands, they don't look around, like, just don't do that. It's maybe a bad thing, but I did learn in Latin America in general, because it did happen to me that my phone got stolen. It was completely my fault. I was on the market talking to someone on the phone, and then a person just snatched the phone and ran away. So I think it's a basic principle. It's like in the public places here, just don't use your phone. And if, let's say, you're going to a restaurant in the late evening, don't take your passport with you. Don't take all the money that you have with you. Just take an amount that would be enough to pay for the food. That's it.
So a lot of common sense, and really just getting to know the area too, and talking to other people, I'm sure has helped with that. So as far as work, you mentioned you went initially after having just left your job, so you didn't really have money with you. That must have been a little bit scary for you. Did you just really budget everything you did, or did you immediately start looking for work?
I actually did start looking for work in Mexico City, simply because I didn't know what to do or like how to enjoy my time without work, because I was so used to work. And yeah, in terms of the budget, I think like volunteering really helped, at least in some places where I would go, because I was able to stay in the place for like 2 weeks or so and save the money on accommodation, the laundry, and some food. Otherwise, I was using, let's say in Mexico, there is a service called BlaBlaCar. It's something like a shared ride, but you share it from one city to another. And it's called like that because the whole way people are expected to talk. So it would be like, let's say 3 or 4 random passengers just driving from one place to another and talking all the way.
That's kind of fun though. Okay, so then you found remote work.
Yes.
So that helped to sustain you a little bit. What was the remote work that you were doing?
It was again in the field of trust and safety. I started as a content moderator, and then I was promoted and I became a quality assurance specialist. So I was making sure that other content moderators are not making mistakes when they remove the content. It was for a French startup that is targeting teenagers from all over the world, right? And then my last position at that company was a team leader. So I was managing a team initially of 10 people who are doing the quality assurance. So yeah, that was my last position.
So you recently left that position, correct?
Yes.
What made you decide to do that?
You know, I think like one of the reasons behind it is again the same feeling that I was having in Greece, that I started looking at the time and counting every minute to finish my shift, and it was just becoming too much. And I realized that it's not healthy, it's not good for my mental health. I don't enjoy it anymore, and I loved my work. I really loved it. But then when it became really like a work, I stopped enjoying it. So after maybe like a month of thinking and considering, I realized that probably I'm better off without it. And I can't say that I have any regrets right now. It has been like 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks at this moment, I'm actually on the road trip from Colombia to Brazil. I'm traveling with my boyfriend by car. So right now, Bolivia is like our 3rd country, and Brazil is the last one.
Oh, wow. So did you meet your boyfriend there while you were traveling?
We've met actually in Colombia in September when I was still working and I was staying at the co-living space for digital nomads, which I think actually is something that is booming right now. It's very
I didn't even know that existed.
It's an amazing way to meet other digital nomads actually, and especially in Colombia. It's very, very popular in Medellin. So the idea of co-living is that you have your private room with your private bathroom. There is a co-working, so everybody comes to work there. And there is a shared kitchen or like a terrace or something, like the common areas. So I met the guy there, and in September to November, we actually traveled around Colombia by car, and we both worked remotely. And then again, we've met in March and decided to travel through different countries to Brazil.
Well, I'm not surprised they do that in Medellin. They are very kind of new age and very eco-conscious, and they do a lot of different things there, a lot of biking. It's a beautiful city. I had several students from Medellin. They have the flower festival there, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, we do.
So pretty. I always think of it as smelling like flowers and coffee. Okay, so transportation, you're on a road trip right now by car. So do you, it helps having your boyfriend, you know, have a car, right? So you can do that. But prior to that, how did you get around? Public transportation?
Yeah, normally by bus. I don't have that many things to carry. So I've limited myself to 60 liters backpack and have another 20 liters one for my laptop and all my documents. So I always carry it with me.
Yeah.
And that's it. So it makes it very easy. And otherwise, in most of these countries here, there is something called colectivo. So it's a bus that you just share with other people. And it's very convenient to travel from one place to another like that.
Yeah. So where do you want to go next? You're on this trip down to Brazil, and what happens after that?
Well, okay, for my boyfriend, he will go to Europe to his family wedding. And for me, I will be staying in Brazil, I think for at least a month or two, just to take a rest, because although I don't drive, right, like I have no idea how to do that. I'm just sitting and looking around. It's still very exhausting. So I think I'll rest a bit in Brazil, and then I still have Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile to visit. And then I will see. Most probably I'll go to Asia. Yeah.
Okay.
You never know.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole idea behind it, right? Is you never know, and just the world is open to you. So walk us through a typical day. I guess no day is typical, but what does it look like when you don't have to sit and just work at a computer or work all day long? What are some things that you have experienced? Maybe some of your favorite things.
Oh, for sure. I mean, now, like after I quit, I am taking this time to rest because I was honestly exhausted. So normally I would wake up, have a coffee, and then decide, depending on the location, right? So for example, today, after this call, me and my boyfriend are going to walk around La Paz to see what is happening around, to go to some miradors, to take the cable car. So just explore and then, you know, go with the flow. So there are some days when I wake up and I feel very tired, so I don't do much. There are other days when I wake up and just go outside and explore.
Do you think you will look for work again? How do you think you will sustain this? What do you want to do next?
Well, I have a background in sociology and migration studies, and my dream was to work as a humanitarian on the ground in the refugee camps, helping there. So I'm searching for something in that sphere. Otherwise, I really loved trust and safety field, so I might come back to that area as well. So it's either one or another. But for now, I think for at least the next couple of weeks, I won't be like actively searching for work because I'm still on the road, at least until the middle of May. And yeah, then I will see.
It's funny, I just talked to someone who, she used to be a social worker. She now coaches women who are going through like a lot of overwhelm in their life. But one of her first jobs was working with refugees, and it was in Texas. She would meet them at the airport as they were coming in from all over the world and help them to get established, to get their paperwork ready, get their kids enrolled in school. I didn't know that there was a job like that, but that sounds like something that would be perfect, right?
Yeah, Yeah, I was thinking about it because I did have an experience while living in Greece of volunteering in a refugee accommodation center and a camp.
Mhm.
So for me, I truly love this profession in the humanitarian sphere. For now, I will see, right? Because in Latin America or in any other country, the basic rule is that you have to speak the language of the country.
Mhm.
And although I do speak some Spanish, I know that it's not enough to read all the laws of the country to help
Yeah.
people.
Right. Well, I wish you luck in that for sure.
Thank you.
So many things that are possible. What has been, I'll ask you one more question, and then I just want to ask you how you would, any advice you would give to maybe a woman who is thinking of doing this, like a young woman like yourself thinking of starting something like this. But what has been your greatest challenge through all of this?
I think there are several. So when I started as a backpacker, even in Mexico City, I was facing a very big misunderstanding from either the local people that I would meet or even from other backpackers in terms of how can I just travel without any plans whatsoever.
Yeah.
There was a big assumption that if I travel like that, I must be very rich. And I think it's certainly not true. And I, until now, do meet some people who are trying to, I think, kind of like project what they want to do on me, meaning that they would be asking me like when or where I'm going to settle down, when I'm planning to buy a house, start a family, and all the things. And I just don't have an answer because I want to travel, right? Like I don't want to stay in one country and say like, okay, that's it. Because the world is so big and I've discovered such a small part until now. So yeah, I will see.
Wow. Yeah. That's true, though. People do tend to project things on us, right? That they are looking for themselves because they don't have that understanding of what it's like, but that's what we get through experience.
Yeah, certainly. And to be honest, I think even now, like sometimes opening up to people would be a very big challenge because I feel like some of them would be judging me for not working. And I don't want to be in that position that I have to explain myself or like justify why I've decided to leave. It's like, for me, it's very ridiculous to do that. It's like, I've made a decision. It's my decision. I'm happy about it. That's it.
That's actually great at such, because you are still young, and to have that mindset is admirable, because I think it takes a lot of people and women specifically, I can speak to, a long time to be able to say, this is the decision I made. You know, so many of us struggle with these decisions and spend years trying to just come to that conclusion. And then even when you do, you kind of fall back into regret. And it's such a waste of time. You just do it and you move forward. And that's where we grow and experience things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would you say to a woman who is thinking of doing the same thing? Maybe she's stuck in a job that her parents decided she should have, right? After going through college and majoring in something she didn't really even want to. You know, whether someone likes what they're doing or not, they just feel like there's something else out there. What advice would you give to that young girl who really wants to see the world too? What should she do?
I think like first is follow her inner voice and intuition and listen to it and trust it. Because if there is something inside of the person telling him or herself, like go travel, go explore, just go with the flow and do it. And then I do believe that a lot of amazing things happen along the way if you're open to explore, if you're open to the world and you're open to receive all the things that the world has to offer.
Yeah, so, listening to that inner voice is critical, isn't it? We can miss out on so much when we don't listen.
True.
Yeah.
So that would be the main. And the second one would be certainly don't let others to break you down or try to change your plans or your mindset. It's like if you have made a decision, stand by it and follow it. And don't try to turn to any other direction if you've made a decision.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. It was so nice talking to you and getting to know you and really picking your brain about all of these things, because I'm so interested and I admire that what you're doing so much. Can you tell us where to find you online? What if someone wants to follow your journey?
Of course. I mainly post on Instagram. So my Instagram account is the same as my full name, so Alexandra, and then my complicated last name, which is Koptyaeva, or like Koptyaeva in Russian. For professional connections, it would be LinkedIn for sure. And then I use Facebook, but really rarely. So I would say Instagram and LinkedIn would be two main places to look for me.
Okay, well, I will certainly add your Instagram feed to the show notes. And if you're okay with my posting this on YouTube, I'll put it in the comments there as well.
Of course.
So thank you so much, Alexandra. It was just a joy to talk to you today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time and for having me.